Video 21, Part 11b of 25, Inputs to the Develop Schedule Process. The purpose of this video is to develop a WBS to present the inputs to the Develop Schedule process. The Develop Schedule process is the fifth process in the Project Schedule Management knowledge area and is related to the Planning Process group. Please click the like button. Subscribe to my channel and share with others. Thank you. How important is the input of project management plan to the PMBOK Develop Schedule process? The project management plan is a critical input to the Develop Schedule process in PMBOK. It provides essential guidance and constraints that shape how the schedule is created. Here is why the project management plan is so important to the Develop Schedule process. 1. Schedule Management Plan. The project management plan defines how the schedule will be developed, monitored, and controlled. The project management plan specifies scheduling methodologies, tools, accuracy levels, and reporting formats. 2. Scope Baseline, which includes Project Scope Statement, WBS, and WBS Dictionary. The project management plan provides the work breakdown structure, which is the foundation for defining activities and sequencing. The project management plan ensures all deliverables are accounted for in the schedule. 3. Cost Baseline and Budget Constraints. The project management plan influences resource allocation and scheduling decisions, such as phased funding may require staged scheduling. 4. Risk Management Plan. The project management plan identifies risks that could impact schedule estimates, such as delays due to procurement risks. The project management plan may require adding contingency buffers. 5. Resource Management Plan. The project management plan defines availability of human and material resources, affecting activity durations and dependencies. 6. Communications and Stakeholder Engagement Plans. The project management plan influences how schedule updates are shared and how stakeholder expectations are managed. 7. Change Management Plan. The project management plan provides procedures for handling schedule changes, such as approved baseline adjustments. How can a poor project management plan analysis harm the PMBOK Develop Schedule process? Poor analysis of the project management plan can severely undermine the Develop Schedule process in PMBOK, leading to unrealistic timelines, misalignment with project goals, and increased risks. Here's how inadequate project management plan analysis can harm scheduling. 1. Unrealistic or inaccurate schedules. First, missing scope baseline details. A poor analysis of the WBS or scope statement may lead to omitted activities, resulting in an incomplete schedule. Second, ignoring constraints and assumptions. If project constraints, such as fixed deadlines and regulatory requirements, are overlooked, the schedule may be unachievable. 2. Poor resource planning and overloads. First, inadequate resource management plan review. Without analyzing resource availability, such as skills, equipment, and budget, the schedule may assume unrealistic resource allocations, causing bottlenecks. Second, unaccounted dependencies. Poor analysis of logical relationships from the project management plan can lead to incorrect sequencing, causing delays. 3. Increased risks and lack of contingency. First, ignoring risk management plan. If known risks, such as supply chain delays and weather impacts, aren't factored in, the schedule won't include buffers, leading to missed deadlines. Second, no mitigation strategies. Poor risk analysis may result in inflexible schedules that cannot adapt to disruptions. 4. Misalignment with stakeholder expectations. First, weak communication plan analysis. If stakeholder reporting needs, such as milestone reviews, are not considered, the schedule may lack critical checkpoints, causing miscommunication. Second, unapproved milestones. Failing to align with stakeholder priorities may lead to rework and delays. 5. Inefficient change management and baseline instability. First, lack of change control understanding. Poor analysis of the change management plan may result in uncontrolled schedule adjustments, leading to scope creep. Second, uncontrolled rebaselining. Without proper governance, frequent unapproved changes can make the schedule unreliable. 6. Compliance and quality issues. First, ignoring quality management plan. If quality checkpoints, such as testing phases, aren't scheduled properly, rework may derail timelines. Second, regulatory non-compliance. Missing mandatory deadlines, such as safety inspections, due to poor project management plan analysis can lead to legal, financial penalties. In conclusion, the project management plan is fundamental to develop schedule because it integrates all planning knowledge areas, ensuring the schedule is realistic, controlled, and aligned with project goals. In summary, the project management plan is critical to the schedule development process for the following reasons. First, ensures alignment with overall project objectives and constraints. Second, provides structure for schedule development, such as milestones from scope baseline. Third, supports realistic scheduling by incorporating risk, resource, and cost considerations. Fourth, maintains consistency with other project management processes, such as cost control and risk response. A disciplined review of the project management plan ensures that the developed schedule process is realistic, risk-aware, and aligned with project objectives. On the other hand, without proper analysis of the project management plan, the schedule development process would lack governance, leading to potential misalignments, unrealistic schedules, and increased project risk. A poor project management plan analysis can lead to a fragile, unreliable schedule, increasing the likelihood of project failure. A poor project management plan analysis can lead to real-world consequences, such as, first, project delays from overlooked dependencies or resource shortages. Second, budget overruns, due to unrealistic timelines requiring crash efforts. Third, stakeholder dissatisfaction from unmet expectations or poor communication. Fourth, project failure. If the schedule is fundamentally unworkable. How important is the input of project documents to the PMBOK develop schedule process? The input of project documents is critically important to the develop schedule process in the PMBOK framework. The input of project documents provide essential data that ensures the schedule is realistic, accurate, and aligned with project objectives. Here we present a detailed breakdown of their significance. 1. Foundation for schedule development. Project documents such as the activity list, activity attributes, and project schedule network diagrams serve as the backbone for creating the schedule. Project documents define what needs to be done, as activities, their characteristics, or attributes, and their logical sequence, as network diagrams. Without project documents, the schedule would lack structure and coherence. 2. Ensuring realistic time estimates. First, activity duration estimates and basis of estimates provide the time required for each task, which is crucial for calculating the project timeline. Second, resource calendars and resource requirements ensure that resource availability constraints are factored into scheduling, preventing overall location or conflicts. 3. Risk and constraint management. First, the risk register highlights potential schedule risks, allowing for buffer time or contingency planning, such as using the critical chain method. Second, assumption logs document provisional truths that could impact the schedule if proven false. 4. Alignment with project scope and objectives. First, the scope baseline, which includes the WBS and scope statement, ensures that all scheduled activities align with project deliverables. Second, milestone lists track key progress points, linking schedule milestones to project phases or deliverables. 5. Dynamic adjustments and updates. First, lessons learned registers from past projects help refine scheduling techniques and avoid historical pitfalls. Second, change logs and issue logs ensure that approved changes or emerging issues are reflected in schedule updates. How can poor project documents analysis harm the PMBOK develop schedule process? Poor analysis of project documents in the PMBOK develop schedule process can lead to significant issues, including unrealistic timelines, resource conflicts, and even project failure. Here we present how the key ways inadequate document analysis can harm the scheduling process. 1. Inaccurate or unrealistic schedules. First, related to missing or incorrect activity data. If the activity list, activity attributes, or milestone list are poorly analyzed, critical tasks may be omitted, sequenced incorrectly, or given unrealistic durations, leading to an unreliable schedule. Second, related to faulty duration estimates. Without proper scrutiny of activity duration estimates or basis of estimates, the schedule may be too optimistic or pessimistic, causing delays or wasted buffers. 2. Resource conflicts and bottlenecks. First, related to ignoring resource calendars and requirements, a poor analysis may lead to overallocation, underutilization, or scheduling tasks when key resources, such as team members and equipment, are unavailable. Second, related to unaccounted dependencies. Misreading project schedule network diagrams can result in incorrect task sequencing, causing workflow disruptions. 3. Increased project risks and uncertainties. First, related to overlooking the risk register. Failure to analyze identified risks, such as supply delays and technical hurdles, means no contingency time is added, making the schedule vulnerable to disruptions. Second, related to unvalidated assumptions. If the assumption log isn't reviewed, the schedule may rely on unverified conditions, such as vendor delivery will take 2 weeks, leading to surprises when assumptions fail. 4. Misalignment with scope and objectives. First, related to scope baseline discrepancies. If the WBS or scope statement isn't cross-checked, scheduled tasks may not fully cover deliverables, leading to scope creep or rework. Second, related to excluded constraints. Unanalyzed constraint logs, such as regulatory deadlines and fixed end dates, may result in an infeasible schedule. 5. Poor adaptability and change management. First, related to ignoring change and issue logs. If updates from approved changes or emerging issues aren't incorporated, the schedule becomes outdated, causing misalignment with actual progress. Second, related to lessons learned not applied. Past scheduling mistakes, such as underestimating testing phases, may repeat if historical lessons learned aren't reviewed. In conclusion, without the project documents, the develop schedule process would rely on guesswork, leading to unrealistic timelines, resource conflicts, and higher project failure risks. The PMBOK emphasizes their role in creating a schedule model, or a flexible yet data-driven plan that adapts to changes while maintaining control. In summary, poor analysis of project documents undermines the accuracy, feasibility, and reliability of the schedule, increasing the likelihood of project disruptions. Inadequate review of project documents can result in consequences such as, first, missed deadlines. In this case, poorly analyzed inputs can lead to unrealistic timelines. Second, budget overruns can lead to rushed work, rework, or idle resources, increase costs. Third, stakeholder dissatisfaction can lead to delays and inefficiencies that erode confidence. Fourth, project failure. Here, in extreme cases, the schedule collapses due to compounding errors. The PMBOK emphasizes rigorous document review to ensure a realistic, adaptable, and well-informed schedule. How important is the input of agreements to the PMBOK develop schedule process? The input of agreements is a critical but often overlooked component in the PMBOK develop schedule process. Here is why it holds significant importance. 1. Vendor and external dependency management. Agreements, such as contracts with vendors or suppliers, define deliverables, timelines, and penalties for delays, which directly impact the project schedule. For example, if a vendor is contracted to deliver materials by a specific date, this date becomes a constraint or milestone in the schedule. Delays in these agreements can cascade into project delays, making their inclusion essential for realistic scheduling. 2. Alignment with legal and contractual obligations. Agreements often include legally binding terms, such as payment milestones and delivery schedules, that must be reflected in the project schedule. Ignoring the legally binding terms can lead to breaches of contract or financial penalties. The schedule must account for the legally binding terms obligations to ensure compliance. 3. Resource and timeline coordination. Agreements may specify resource availability, such as leased equipment and third-party services, or blackout periods, such as holidays and maintenance windows. These details feed into resource calendars and activity sequencing, ensuring the schedule is feasible. 4. Risk mitigation. Including agreements helps identify risks early. For instance, if a vendor's delivery timeline is tight, the schedule can incorporate buffers or alternative plans. On proactive risk management. 5. Stakeholder alignment. Agreements often involve stakeholders, such as clients and partners, whose expectations are tied to contractual terms. A schedule that mirrors these terms fosters transparency and reduces conflicts. How can poor agreements analysis harm the PMBOK develop schedule process? Here we present how a poor agreements analysis can significantly harm the PMBOK develop schedule process by introducing risks, inefficiencies, and failures in project execution. 1. Unrealistic schedules and missed deadlines. If agreements, such as contracts, service-level agreements, and vendor commitments, are not properly analyzed, the schedule may assume unrealistic delivery dates, leading to, first, missed milestones, such as late material deliveries delaying construction. Second, schedule slippage due to unaccounted lead times or vendor delays. 2. Resource shortages and bottlenecks. Agreements often define resource availability, such as leased equipment and third-party services. Poor analysis can result in, first, overlapping resource demands, such as two vendors needing the same crane at the same time. Second, unplanned downtime, such as failing to account for maintenance periods in a service contract. 3. Legal and financial risks. Contracts include penalties, incentives, and termination clauses. Ignoring these can lead to, first, breach of contract, such as failing to meet a client-mandated go-live date. Second, cost overruns, such as penalties for late delivery or rushed procurement. 4. Inaccurate critical path and float calculations. Vendor dependencies, such as software delivery from a subcontractor, impact the critical path. Poor agreement analysis may, first, underestimate float, making the schedule too rigid. Second, overlook external dependencies, causing delays in successor activities. 5. Stakeholder conflicts and loss of trust. If agreements with clients, suppliers, or partners are not reflected in the schedule, first, stakeholders may reject the schedule as non-compliant with contractual terms. Second, disputes can arise over responsibility for delays, such as was the vendor late or did we plan poorly? 6. Increased risk exposure. Without proper agreement analysis, first, force majeure clauses, such as weather delays in construction contracts, may be ignored, leaving no contingency. Second, single points of failure, such as sole source supplier delays, may go unnoticed until it's too late. In conclusion, while not as prominently discussed as inputs like activity lists or network diagrams, agreements are vital for creating a realistic, enforceable, and risk-aware schedule. On the other hand, a poor agreements analysis can derail the develop schedule process by creating unrealistic timelines, legal risks, and resource conflicts. As a final message, a properly integrating contractual terms ensures a feasible, enforceable, and stakeholder-aligned schedule. How important is the input of enterprise environmental factors to the PMBOK develop schedule process? The input of enterprise environmental factors is critically important to the PMBOK develop schedule process, as it provides essential contextual constraints and influences that shape how the project schedule is created and managed. Here we have a detailed breakdown of its significance. 1. Contextual constraints on scheduling. Enterprise environmental factors introduce conditions that the project team cannot control but must account for, such as, first, related to legal, regulatory requirements, compliance with labor laws, safety standards, or industry regulations may dictate work hours, deadlines, or resource availability. Second, related to organizational culture, policies on work hours, remote work, or approval hierarchies can impact task sequencing and timelines. Third, related to infrastructure and tools. Existing IT systems, such as scheduling software, or physical resources, such as shared equipment, may constrain how activities are planned. 2. Resource availability and calendars. Enterprise environmental factors like resource calendars, such as team availability and holidays, and geographic distribution of resources directly influence activity durations and dependencies. For example, first, external vendor schedules or union agreements may limit when certain tasks can be performed. Second, time zone differences in global teams may require adjusted timelines for collaborative tasks. 3. Market and economic conditions. External enterprise environmental factors such as economic trends or supply chain disruptions can affect material costs, lead times, or labor availability, necessitating buffer periods or alternative scheduling approaches, such as critical chain method. 4. Risk management integration. Enterprise environmental factors often highlight risks, such as political instability and weather events, that must be factored into the schedule through, first, contingency reserves. Second, flexible dependencies, such as leads, lags. 5. Alignment with organizational strategy. Internal enterprise environmental factors like project governance or strategic priorities ensure the schedule aligns with broader business objectives, such as aligning deliverables with fiscal year goals. How can a poor enterprise environmental factors analysis harm the PMBOK develop schedule process? Here we present how a poor or inadequate analysis of enterprise environmental factors can significantly harm the PMBOK develop schedule process, leading to unrealistic timelines, resource conflicts, and even project failure. 1. Unrealistic schedules and missed deadlines. First, if legal, regulatory constraints, such as labor laws and environmental permits, are overlooked, the schedule may not account for mandatory waiting periods, leading to delays. Second, ignoring organizational holidays or work policies, such as mandatory shutdowns, can result in incorrect workday assumptions, causing missed milestones. 2. Resource conflicts and bottlenecks. First, a poor analysis of resource availability, such as shared equipment and team member allocations, can lead to overcommitment, causing schedule slippage. Second, failing to consider vendor or supplier lead times, which is an enterprise environmental factor, may result in material shortages, halting critical path activities. 3. Increased risks and unplanned contingencies. First, neglecting market conditions, such as inflation and supply chain disruptions, may lead to underestimated procurement timelines, requiring costly schedule adjustments later. Second, ignoring geopolitical or environmental risks, such as weather patterns and political instability, can leave the schedule vulnerable to unforeseen disruptions. 4. Compliance and legal issues. First, if industry regulations, such as safety inspections and mandatory testing phases, are not factored in, the project may face fines, rework, or forced stoppages. Second, union agreements or labor laws, such as overtime restrictions, could be violated, leading to disputes and delays. 5. Poor stakeholder alignment and communication gaps. First, misjudging organizational culture, such as slow approval processes and hierarchical decision-making, can cause delays in securing necessary sign-offs. Second, overlooking time zone differences in global teams may lead to misaligned task dependencies and coordination failures. 6. Financial and reputational damage. First, a poorly analyzed schedule may require crashing or fast-tracking, increasing costs unnecessarily. Second, repeated delays due to enterprise environmental factors oversights can damage the organization's credibility with clients and stakeholders. In conclusion, enterprise environmental factors are indispensable inputs to the develop schedule process, as they ensure the schedule is realistic, compliant, and adaptable to both internal and external influences. Ignoring enterprise environmental factors can lead to unrealistic timelines, resource conflicts, or regulatory non-compliance. A weak enterprise environmental factors analysis also undermines the accuracy, feasibility, and resilience of the project schedule. By systematically evaluating enterprise environmental factors, project managers can create realistic, compliant, and adaptable schedules that mitigate risks and align with organizational and external realities. How important is the input of organizational process assets to the PMBOK develop schedule process? Here is why the input of organizational process assets is critically important to the develop schedule process in the PMBOK framework. 1. Foundation for realistic scheduling. Organizational process assets provide historical data, templates, and lessons learned from past projects, which help project managers create more accurate and realistic schedules. For example, first, historical duration estimates from similar projects can inform activity timelines. Second, standardized templates, such as Gantt charts and work breakdown structures, streamline schedule development. 2. Ensures compliance and consistency. Organizational policies and procedures embedded in organizational process assets ensure that schedules align with internal standards, such as financial controls and reporting formats and external regulations. This reduces risks of non-compliance. 3. Efficiency and time savings. Pre-existing processes, such as sequencing methods and tools, such as project management software, from organizational process assets eliminate the need to reinvent the wheel, speeding up schedule creation. 4. Supports risk mitigation. Lessons learned and risk registers from past projects, which are parts of organizational process assets, highlight potential scheduling pitfalls, such as resource bottlenecks and dependency delays, allowing proactive adjustments. 5. Facilitates stakeholder alignment. Organizational process assets often include communication guidelines and stakeholder registers, ensuring schedules are developed with input from key parties and adhere to organizational expectations. How can a poor organizational process assets analysis harm the PMBOK developed schedule process? Here is how a poor analysis of organizational process assets in the PMBOK developed schedule process can lead to significant project risks, inefficiencies, and failures. 1. Inaccurate or unrealistic schedules. First, related to missing historical data. Without past project records, such as activity durations and resource productivity, estimates become guesses, leading to overly optimistic or padded timelines. Second, related to ignored lessons learned. Repeating past mistakes, such as underestimating testing phases, causes delays. 2. Non-compliance with organizational standards. First, related to skipping mandatory steps. If organizational process assets include governance checkpoints, such as stage gate approvals, and they're overlooked, the schedule may violate internal policies, triggering audits or stoppages. Second, related to inconsistent formats, deviating from standardized templates, such as WBS or Gantt charts, creates confusion in reporting and tracking. 3. Resource conflicts and bottlenecks. First, related to poor resource calendars, organizational process assets often define organizational holidays, working hours, or shared resource constraints. Ignoring these leads to over-allocation or idle time. Second, related to unaccounted dependencies, past projects may reveal hidden dependencies, such as procurement lead times. Omitting them disrupts critical paths. 4. Increased risk exposure. First, related to unmitigated risks, organizational process assets contain risk registers from past projects, such as vendor delays. Without reviewing them, the schedule fails to buffer high-probability threats. Second, related to lack of contingency plans, historical data often suggests reserve time for certain activities. Excluding it leaves no room for recovery. 5. Stakeholder misalignment and conflicts. First, related to ignored communication protocols, if organizational process assets specify stakeholder review cycles, such as monthly steering committee approvals, skipping them results in last-minute rework. Second, related to unmet expectations, past projects may highlight stakeholder preferences, such as phased deliveries. Disregarding them leads to dissatisfaction. 6. Tool and methodology inefficiencies. First, related to reinventing the wheel, without leveraging existing scheduling software, such as MS project setups or Agile, waterfall guidelines. Teams waste time creating flawed systems. Second, related to fragmented tracking. Inconsistent use of organizational process assets, earned value or progress metrics makes it hard to compare performance across projects. In conclusion, organizational process assets are indispensable to the develop schedule process, providing the knowledge, tools, and historical context needed to create feasible, compliant, and stakeholder-aligned schedules. Ignoring them can lead to inefficiencies, inaccuracies, risks, and missed deadlines, resulting in real-world consequences like, first, related to missed deadlines. A poor historical calibration can result in schedule overruns. Second, related to budget overruns, unplanned delays increase costs. Third, related to reputation damage. Repeated failures erode stakeholder trust. As a final message, organizational process assets are the backbone of reliable scheduling. Finishing this video, we will have in the next videos. 1. Creation of WBS for different projects using WBS Schedule Pro. 2. Examples of project plans using MS Project. And many other videos. Don't forget to give a thumbs up if you liked this video and want us to continue with new topics. Subscribe to the channel. All content is free. You can also comment suggesting topics you would like to see on this channel. Thank you.